You know how they say history is written by the victors? It's supposed to be this clean, official story, right? The one we all learn in school. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the real truth is buried somewhere in the earth, hidden in a single pixel, or maybe even waiting inside our own bones? I mean, seriously, what if the stories we've been told for generations were actually designed to mislead us, to slander someone, or to cover up something truly horrible? Today, we're going to dive into three incredible cases where forensic science basically became a time machine, digging up truths that some very powerful people tried to bury forever. First up, we've got a king, a man who was painted as a monster for 500 years, his body just lost after a brutal battle. His enemies got to write his story. But what story would his own skeleton tell if it could talk? Then we're going to look at a city that was hiding a terrible, terrible secret. For a whole century, an entire community basically agreed to just forget a horrific massacre, literally wiping it from the history books. But the ground, well, the ground doesn't forget. And finally, we're heading to a modern battlefield, a place where wars are fought in crystal clear high definition, but investigated in blurry low resolution. This is a crazy story about a war hidden in plain sight, concealed not by dirt, but by a veil of digital pixels. All right, let's jump right into our first case, where the evidence is, and I mean this literally, bone deep. We're talking about King Richard III, the last Plantagenet king of England. So for 500 years, this was the image of Richard III. I mean, Shakespeare immortalized him this way. The story, which was cooked up by the rival Tudor dynasty, was of this monstrous, deformed villain. And his twisted body was presented as proof that he had a twisted soul. It's a powerful image, and it's stuck. For centuries, it was just accepted as fact. But then, in 2012, they find his skeleton under a parking lot. A parking lot. And all of a sudden, modern science gets to cross-examine the star witness, the king's own body. So, was he a hunchback? Nope. Forensic analysis showed he had severe scoliosis. That's a side-to-side curve, not the forward hunch of legend. What about the withered arm? Not a shred of evidence in the bones. A limp? His leg and hip bones were totally normal. Just like that, the whole caricature just fell apart. So scientists used CT scans and even 3D printed his spine to get a better look. And yeah, his condition was significant, no doubt. But it wasn't this grotesque deformity from the plays. His torso would have been a bit short, and his right shoulder would have been higher than his left. But you know what? That's something a good tailor or custom-made armor could easily hide. The monster was pure propaganda. The man was a warrior who just happened to have a spinal condition. Okay, so from a story that was twisted by propaganda, we now move to a story that was almost completely erased. In this case, the evidence wasn't just lost to time, it was actively, systematically hidden. We're talking about a conspiracy of silence that lasted for an entire century. Back in 1921, there was this incredibly successful Black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, known as Black Wall Street. It was attacked and burned to the ground by a white mob. And for almost 100 years, the city just tried to forget. The story was hushed up, the number of deaths was downplayed, and nobody knew where the victims were buried. But the descendants and a lot of dedicated researchers, they refused to let that truth stay buried. And all that persistence, it finally paid off. During some recent digs at Oak Lawn Cemetery, a place that was long rumored to be a burial site for victims, forensic teams found something unbelievable. 42 previously unknown graves, each one holding a person buried in a simple wooden box, which matched exactly what you'd expect for victims of the massacre. And the analysis of what they found, it's just chilling. It paints a picture that the official silence tried so desperately to erase. So far, they found at least 6 confirmed gunshot victims. Now get this, 5 of them had multiple gunshot wounds. The bullets came from at least 5 different types of guns, which points to a huge armed assault, not just some riot. One victim even showed signs of being burned after they died. The earth itself was holding the proof of a brutal, organized massacre. All right, our final case takes us from evidence buried in the earth to evidence hidden in the digital world. This is where covering up a crime has gotten a major tech upgrade. You don't always have to bury something in the ground anymore. Sometimes you just have to blur it on a screen. So here's the big problem for anyone trying to investigate modern conflicts. It's called the resolution gap. Think about it like this. A government agency can use this crystal clear 4K high-definition video to launch a drone strike on a specific target. But when an independent group tries to check what happened using public satellite photos, the pictures are intentionally made blurry and low quality. It completely flips forensics on its head. Usually, the investigator has better tools to see the evidence. Here, it's the other way around. And this is what you get. The state can act in super high res, but maintain complete deniability in low res. So how in the world do you prove what happened? How do you investigate a potential war crime when the crime scene itself is deliberately hidden from you? Look at this. This is the aftermath of a drone strike that killed 4 people in 2012, as seen by the public. There's no giant crater, no collapsed building. It's just a faint smudge, a little cluster of pixels that's barely even visible. The evidence of a lethal attack has been made almost invisible by design. So, to fight back against this, an incredible group called Forensic Architecture came up with a new technique. They're like digital detectives. They gather every single scrap of data they can find. Cell phone videos smuggled out of the area, witness accounts, building plans, and they use all of it to build a complete 3D model of the event. They literally reconstruct the entire scene, making the invisible visible again and punching right through that pixelated veil of secrecy. So let's pull all 3 of these stories together. We've got a medieval king, a forgotten massacre, and a hidden modern war. What's the common thread here? What do they all tell us? Well, each case shows the incredible, unwavering power of evidence. A king's bones corrected a 500-year-old lie. The earth itself testified against a century of official silence. And a bunch of digital shadows, when pieced together, brought a hidden war into the light. In every single one of these stories, careful, meticulous investigation held powerful narratives accountable. At the end of the day, it seems like history isn't just what someone decided to write down. It's what can be scientifically and meticulously proven. The evidence never lies. Which kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other official stories are out there, just waiting for the right piece of evidence and the right investigator to come along and rewrite them completely?